I want to leave you with 6 rules to keep in mind for prototyping. These are tips that you can use as you build your own prototypes going forward. Tip number 1, focus on one specific question at a time. Each prototype should only be asking one question, and you need to be clear on what question that prototype is asking. And if you're developing a new product or a new service or a new business, typically the question is some variation on what has to be true in order for this to be desirable, viable, and feasible. What's the fastest way you can embody that question and put it out into the world for feedback? So one question per prototype. Point number 2, make it low fidelity. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be good enough to answer the question. Don't spend more time and money on something than is needed. Just good enough will do. 3, work quickly. Feel free to iterate in real time on prototypes. If you put something in front of a person and after 3 or 4 interactions you hear overwhelmingly that people don't like one feature and prefer another, feel free to scrap the ones they don't like and quickly iterate on the ones that they do. It doesn't have to be statistically significant in the early days of prototyping. It has to just be good enough to help us find a pattern and have a hunch on what direction we should take. 4, always bring out more than one prototype at a time. If you bring out one idea and one prototype and you put it in front of somebody and you say, what do you think? Most human beings, if they have a little bit of compassion and empathy, and they see you only putting one idea in front of them, will probably give you feedback that protects your feelings. They'll say things like, oh, I like it. And their voice is going to go up an octave, and you're going to know that they're not telling you the entire truth. But if I bring out multiple versions of something, like here's this small version and this large version and this digital version and this manual version, what I'm now inviting people to do is contrast those models together and tell me where they find value, where they don't find value. And they're not as worried about hurting my feelings because they know I don't only have one idea that I'm pursuing, I have several ideas, which invites them to give me the critical feedback that I need to decide where I want to invest my resources and time going forward. So always bring out more than one prototype at once. 5, don't keep prototypes to yourself. Build to think, but launch to learn. Prototypes are no good if you keep them inside of your office and you don't get out of the building and share them with the people that you're trying to provide value for. So always be comfortable putting your ideas out into the world. Even if it means you get critical feedback, it's better to know that something doesn't work inexpensively, quickly, and cheaply today than it is to find out after you've made a lot of time and money investments down the road. So always launch to learn, put those ideas out into the world with real people to get real feedback as quickly as you can. And finally, iterate, iterate, iterate. Prototypes are not the first version of the final thing. They are ways of learning more about the world and ways of learning more about the people we're trying to serve and the organizations we're trying to serve. And sometimes you actually have to launch a business to realize that the first version is a prototype. This is a website called The Point. I'm interested in how many of you have ever heard of it. It's a social activation site where groups of people can band together and rally around a cause to be able to support social action. If you haven't heard about it, you're not alone. But what happens when I make this tweak and I change group activation to group buying? Start to see what I'm getting at here? Yes, this is in fact the origin story of Groupon. It started as a social activation platform that got groups of people working together to affect change. And very quickly, the founders realized, you know what, if we actually shift this away from social activation and towards generating scale economies of groups of people that want to purchase something, maybe we actually have something even more valuable. And of course, the rest is history. So if you have a prototyping mindset, a learning-based mindset, sometimes the first idea, even if you think it's the right idea, is really just a prototype hiding in plain sight. So be open to the reactions you're getting from the market. Let those reactions guide your next steps. And remember to embody your questions frequently, often, and in low fidelity.